On the packed and crowded school track, feet launched off racing at incredible and tremendous speed, where one particular student showed exceptional quickness and swiftness that grabbed everyone's attention and eye, completing the race with a powerful stomp pressed down on the ground. Xu official time was called out and announced as 2 minutes, 36 seconds, and 79 hundredths of a second, while everyone around expressed astonishment at his absolutely amazing athletic performance and abilities. Shouts full of admiration and enthusiastic cheers erupted and rose from the girls, who gathered and crowded around the track area, their eyes sparkling brightly with hearts floating in them, as they called out the word senpai with intense admiration and respect. While Xu drank water to satisfy and quench his thirst, his glistening appearance shining under the sunlight appeared like a cinematic movie scene, which made the screaming of the fans increase as they described him as incredibly handsome. One of the female students walked and approached him in a shy manner, offering him a handkerchief to wipe away his sweat. He looked at her with surprise for a brief moment before expressing thanks to her and accepting the handkerchief she offered. The instant he started wiping his sweat away, the girl turned and ran away quickly, completely overwhelmed with happiness and joy, because the senpai had accepted her gift while he continued wiping his face in a calm manner. During that exact moment, a transparent panel materialized and appeared in front of him, announcing an increase in his running experience by 20 points, and the running skill advancing and reaching level 3, so Xu took notice that the points had increased slightly more than what was usual. The alerts didn't stop there, as another notification appeared, indicating an increase in his charm by 45 points amidst all the girls' enthusiastic cheers. He sighed with annoyance at this particular skill, which he considered completely useless, even though it develops and grows very quickly and rapidly. All of a sudden, a tennis ball launched at rocket-like speed towards his face, piercing and cutting through the air with tremendous force. With a lightning-fast movement and reaction, Xu raised his hand upward, managing to catch the fastball with complete dexterity and skill before it could touch his face. Smoke rose and lifted from the ball as a direct result of the friction and force applied, while Xu looked coldly in the direction toward the source to observe a person smiling in a threatening manner from a distance away. His friend Li Jai rushed towards him with obvious concern written on his face, asking him what was currently happening, and Xu questioned him about whether he knew the person who had attacked him just now. With a face completely filled with terror and fear, Li Jai pointed his trembling and shaking finger towards the attacker, confirming that he knew him extremely well. He provided an explanation that this person goes by the name Bei Yu Guang, known throughout the school as the school tyrant and bully, and wondered with fear about the reason that caused Xu to get involved in a conflict with him. Li Jai immediately figured out and deduced that the reason might be connected and related to a woman once again, giving advice to his friend to accept one of his fans to stop continuously attracting hostilities from the entire world around him. However, Xu threw the handkerchief away with indifference, stating that he had absolutely no interest, which caused his friends to scream out in protest that the bros were actually interested. Xu paid no attention to and ignored his friend's warnings that Baiyu Guang is not someone to be taken lightly or underestimated, and departed from the track, simply stating that he was going to go exercise and train. While his friend thought to himself that exercise was pointless and useless, and he should learn martial arts instead, Xu was smiling with confidence, holding the belief that his situation was completely and totally different from others around him. The story travels and goes back to 1 month ago, where Xu arrived mysteriously in this world that resembles Earth, but exists as something different. Arriving along with him came that transparent panel, which grants and gives him points in strength, constitution, and agility whenever he exerts physical effort and work, confirming to him that effort always brings rewards and results. Even when practicing archery, every single shot hit the target with accuracy, proving to him that hard work is never wasted or lost. He made the discovery that as long as he trains to a certain specific degree, he gains the ability to activate special skills, as his eye glowed bright blue, announcing the activation of the marksmanship skill of the first level. However, despite all the great benefits of daily training and practice, the physical consumption remained massive and enormous, as his thoughts were broken and interrupted by the sounds of his hungry stomach growling. He opened the refrigerator to discover it completely empty inside, which left him feeling frustrated. He put on his shirt to cover his muscular and athletic body, assuring and reminding himself that he doesn't train this hard just to show off to others. He went out walking through the city streets at nighttime in a place called and known as the Fifth Urban Circle, hovering and floating above the buildings as he contemplated and reflected on his situation. He came to understand and realize the truth of this world. The further out and away you travel, the more poverty and ruin increase and grow, and the further in and inward you go, the the more prosperity and nobility increase and flourish. He stood positioned inside a grocery store, thinking to himself that he had only half a year remaining until graduation, questioning whether he would fight to ascend and climb to the inner circle or remain poor for his entire life. He placed and put his purchases in the basket, but when the saleswoman informed and told him the bill totaled $210, he felt shocked by the enormous amount. With intense and overwhelming embarrassment, he began returning and putting back the goods one by one, abandoning his purchases due to his lack of sufficient funds and money. In one of the dark and quiet alleyways, Xu was walking along, complaining about the exorbitant and outrageous prices, as the price of 5 eggs reached 30 units, making him mutter under his breath that this world had truly gone completely mad and insane. All of a sudden, he stopped walking and froze completely in his place, sensing and detecting the presence of something positioned in front of him in the darkness ahead. A black cat with shiny, glowing eyes and a strange golden ring wrapped around its tail appeared and materialized in front of him, letting out a faint and soft meow, making Xu believe and assume it was just a stray cat wandering around. However, the cat suddenly fell over on its side without any movement. Xu looked at it with suspicion, wondering to himself if it was trying to trick him with some kind of ruse or scheme. He approached closer to it and squatted down to examine it carefully, noticing and observing that its body was covered completely in wounds and injuries, leading him to conclude and determine that it had just fought and survived a losing battle. Meanwhile, she was expressing in shock, unable to believe and accept that the world of stray cats is this cruel and brutal and harsh. Xu jumped backward in panic and fear, his eyes wide open with astonishment and surprise, for he heard her voice clearly and distinctly and wondered if the cat had just spoken out loud, trying to comprehend and understand what was happening with this strange and unusual creature. He returned and came back to approach cautiously and carefully and extended his hand towards the golden ring on her tail to examine it up close. The moment and instant he touched it, the system panel appeared and materialized in front of him, announcing the discovery of divine material and the start of absorbing divinity, which sparked and ignited his surprise at this strange and unusual term and word. This planet, called and known as Earth Star, exists as a world known by the name Chuxia. 287 years ago, an event occurred and happened that shook all of existence, where God died and passed away, and a giant celestial entity appeared crashing down in the sky above. On that witness day, all humans living on the surface of the planet were eyewitnesses to this majestic and terrifying scene unfolding. Since that moment then, the gods died and perished, and humanity stood independent and alone on its own, without divine guidance. While Xu continued his way carrying the cat he had found and discovered, he made a vow and promise to himself that he would continue to toil and work and train until he became a god himself through his own power. Xu returned back to his apartment and offered and presented a bowl of cat food to the black cat, but she looked and stared at the food with intense disdain and disgust, and turned her face away from it. Xu mocked her with a nervous smile spreading across his face, surprised about how a stray cat could refuse food with such arrogance and pride. However, he suddenly remembered and recalled when the cat spoke in human language when he had met her for the first time initially. Doubt began to creep and sneak into Xu mind, and he wondered to himself if this creature was not originally a cat from the beginning. He headed and moved quickly toward the kitchen area, leaving the cat in confusion watching and observing his actions and movements. He began cooking with impressive skill and speed, where system notifications appeared and showed up, granting him cooking experience points, with every single movement he made from chopping and cutting and frying the ingredients. When he finally finished up, he set down a plate stacked with rice, steak, and green peppers, all looking seriously good. He slid it her way, basically waiting to see if she'd go for it. The cat saw the food and just went for it, totally hyped. Her eyes lit up and she started drooling as she chowed down. Xu sat back, grinning to himself. He could tell he was right. She wasn't just some regular cat talking like a person. She was actually a human, just stuck in a cat's body somehow. He looked back at the gold ring on her tail, pretty sure that was behind her transformation. Right then the system popped up, letting him know it had finished absorbing divinity. Right in front of him, a new skill popped up called Twin Life. It was labeled as a divine skill and needed 500 divinity points to turn on, but he already had enough. He didn't waste any time and just went for it. He hit yes, grinning like he had a secret, and suddenly the screen lit up with this wild burst of gold. Xu stood right in the center of the room when the system popped up and told him the Twin Life skill was now online. He scrolled through the skill info, barely believing what he saw. It basically gave him 2 shots at life, and he could pick when to come back within a week after dying. The craziest part, he only had to wait 3 months before he could use it again. He stared for a second, not really processing what he just saw. Coming back to life in only 7 days? That was wild. Nobody would expect something like that. He just stood there, totally stunned, thinking about how it looked just like the resurrection shield from games. If this was just the passive effect, he couldn't help but wonder how wild the active skill might get. Xu Jing stared at the system screen, not too happy about it since the active skill was still locked. He realized he needed more divinity points to open it up, so he started thinking if he really had to spend even more of that energy. While the cat was going all in on the food, totally locked in and happy, he just stood there watching her, his face looking straight up cold. In his head, he was already planning to keep draining her energy, not feeling a thing about it. Looking closer, he saw scars and cuts all over her, hidden beneath her fur. He looked at her, and something switched inside. Seeing her like this, he knew if he kept draining her energy, it'd be straight up messed up. He crouched down so he was eye level with her, reaching out to pat her head softly. While he did that, his mind was already working on a new plan to find some energy. He wasn't about to just let it slide without some backup, so out of nowhere he reached out and held her head right as she started making noise, not having any of it. Xu Jing grabbed his stuff and headed out, hoping to spot anything that could explain where this whole divinity thing was coming from. He left the cat chilling back at the apartment. He wanted to see what the cat would get up to when he wasn't around, so he quietly slipped out and pulled the door shut, making sure not to make a sound. The second he stepped out, the cat ditched her innocent act. Her eyes lit up bright green, staring hard into the dark room. Xu Jing was watching all of this on a camera he had set up in the corner, just keeping tabs from a distance. The view switched to the city's outer ring, a place where everyone knows getting into the fancy inner part is nearly impossible. Getting in is tough, but if someone actually makes it, the price to stay would wipe out even a loaded family. Still, tons of people keep showing up like it's no big deal. Xu Jing made his way through the shadowy alleys, realizing most people had no clue there was a whole different path to level up. If he chose to go down the martial artist path, everything would pretty much start falling into place. Stuff that used to be impossible would suddenly be wide open. Out of nowhere, this giant dude with a bat stepped right in front of him in the alley and said his name. Xu Jing just stared him down, looking totally unbothered, and wanted to know what was up. The gang closed in around him. The bald guy in charge stepped up and wanted to know if this was the dude Beiyu Guang had his eye on. He didn't bother hiding it, he basically told him he wasn't making it out today. Xu Jing kept his face blank, not giving anything away. He just asked straight up which brother they were talking about, sounding pretty ice cold. Before anyone could even finish what they were saying, he was already on the move, so fast it looked like he straight up glitched across the room. He just stepped up and sent the massive guy flying right in front of everyone. The whole squad froze, some yelling, others just straight up stunned. The gang just stood there, staring at their leader lying on the ground in the middle of all the wreckage. Nobody could process what just went down. They tried to figure out if he even did anything, but honestly, they didn't catch a single move. He didn't wait for anyone to figure out what was happening. He just started throwing punches, one after another, dropping them fast while everyone around was yelling in pain. When he activated his marksmanship skill, his eyes started glowing blue. Suddenly, every move he made got way more precise, and his focus zeroed in like he was totally locked in. They hit the ground hard, hurting bad, but one guy got back up with this blue glow around him. He clocked that Xu Jing had a few moves up his sleeve, but figured it wouldn't matter, so he charged straight at him, going all in. Xu Jing slipped past the attack like it was nothing, all because of his marksmanship skills. He realized, kind of stunned, that what he just did was actual martial arts. The attacker spun around, obviously annoyed that his move didn't work. He looked at the kid and just saw someone way too quick for him to handle. Xu Jing stood there, hands in his pockets, looking pretty chill with a confident grin. He was honestly glad to see Beiyu Guang and his crew knew martial arts, because now he didn't have to waste time searching for someone to explain how things worked around here. He walked right up to the guy who caused all the trouble, not messing around at all. He wanted answers, and made it clear he wasn't going to go easy. Out of nowhere, he threw a heavy punch that sent the dude crashing into the wall, breaking the stones behind him like they were nothing. The guy dropped to the floor, shaking hard. He looked at Xu Jing like he was the boss now, basically giving up and ready to spill whatever he knew. Xu Jing gave him a look that said he wasn't buying the act at all, kind of roasting him in his head for pretending to be tough when it was obvious he couldn't keep it up. He noticed his opponent had been waiting all that time just to show off one move. Turns out that was the only trick he had. Right then, a notification popped up saying his combat skill was active since he hit all the requirements. Xu Jing caught on quick his marksmanship wasn't just helping his eyes track movement, it also made his punches way more accurate. Suddenly, taking on fighters like Beiyu Guang didn't seem hard at all. The guy was on the ground, totally panicked, basically begging Brother Jing to chill out and stop swinging. Meanwhile, Xu Jing walked up, giving off this intense vibe, his eyes straight up glowing red like some final boss. Xu Jing shot him a cold grin and wanted to know how he pulled off that punch, trying to figure out what kind of move that even was. Sweat dripped down the guy's face as he explained it wasn't some regular fighting move. Instead, it was all about building up energy from every part of his body and then blasting it out in one powerful hit. When Xu Jing asked the guy how to train for it and where he picked it up, the guy started stumbling over his words, clearly trying to dodge the question. He said he barely knew the basics himself and couldn't really explain it, pretty much begging Xu Jing to let it slide. Xu Jing locked his grip on the guy's collar, not letting go. He just stared at him, totally unimpressed by the way he was trying to act pitiful. He thought back to all the stuff people said about him, smoking, drinking, even some wild stories about murder and burning things down. It was hard to get how someone with that kind of rep could just give in so fast. But when the guy broke down, saying all that talk was just made up, it hit different. Turns out, he'd put on that scary act just to keep trouble away at school. Xu Jing didn't even pause before landing a hard slap right across the guy's face. He made it clear, no messing around. If this dude ever forgot what just happened, Xu Jing would make sure to remind him every single time they crossed paths. After that, he told him to write an apology for messing with his classmates and said he had to read it out loud to everyone first thing tomorrow. One of his buddies would record the whole thing so Xu Jing could see he actually went through with it. The guy nodded, totally embarrassed and freaking out. He covered his ears and screamed, just hoping nobody would hit him again. Xu Jing checked his phone and saw the address for some dojo pop up. He figured he'd just head over there himself and talk to the master, since he couldn't count on that guy who clearly didn't get it. He made it to the city's inner ring, just cruising along until his GPS told him to hang a right in about 120 meters. Right in front of him, system notifications started popping up, letting him know he just leveled up his physical fitness, marksmanship, and health stats. On top of that, he unlocked the combat skills since he finally hit all the requirements. Xu Jing noticed that just getting into a fight, even when it wasn't that tough, gave him way more progress than grinding it out in the gym for an hour, where he'd usually only see his stats go up by about 200. He stopped outside Golden Wind Dojo, realizing he'd just unlocked a new skill. Right then, it hit him. If he wanted to get stronger, he was probably going to have to stir up some trouble and pick more fights down the line. He walked into the dojo, ready to check things out, and went up to the front desk. When he tried to let the receptionist know he wanted to look around, she quickly signaled for him to keep quiet since the master was teaching a class. Xu Jing sat back and watched as the master broke things down for everyone. The master told the group that learning how to breathe right was the real starting point. It's what gets your energy moving on the inside. Without getting that key to flow all the way through your body, you're not even considered a beginner in martial arts. Xu Jing's eyes lit up as he realized this starter cultivation method was exactly what he needed. He walked up to her and, keeping his voice chill, asked if he could join. She said yes, cheeks going a little red since he looked pretty good, but told him not to push himself too hard. Right when he thanked her and started to walk in, his system popped up and told him he just scored 30 XP for his charm skill. He sat on the training cushion, listening as the master explained how to tighten his core and keep breathing. He glanced over, not really believing this new kid would pull it off on his first try. The master was stressing, telling himself that students had to breathe in as much as they could and just hold it. Meanwhile, the girl was low-key freaking out because she really needed to find some talented students or else she'd be out of a job. You could tell the other students were wiped out, their faces went red, and they were struggling just to count each second. Out of nowhere, Kui Chang Yuan, the one the master really believed in, just couldn't take it anymore. He let out a big breath and basically gave up, making it clear he was done. The girl saw this, and you could tell she was seriously let down. She told the master she was sorry and said she'd help him out by finding someone for him in the next few days. The master suddenly cut her off, looking straight at Xu Jing. He told her to chill because the kid wasn't even close to giving up. Xu Jing was still locked in, pushing through the training without missing a beat. The master froze for a second. He finally got it. This breathing technique looked easy, but it was insanely tough. When you tried it, a crazy amount of oxygen rushed into your lungs, and if you didn't have serious lung power, there was no chance you could even attempt it. The master pictured true chi building up non-stop inside Xu Jing, almost like it was going to burst out from all the pressure. When the master finally called time, Xu Jing let out a deep breath, waiting for the system pop-up. Right then, his internal force skill kicked in, and the notification showed he pulled it off. The master hurried over, clearly excited to see him, wanting to know how he was doing, while the girl checked if anything hurt or if he was feeling weird anywhere. Xu Jing woke up and checked himself out, steam drifting all around him. Instead of freaking out, he actually felt super refreshed, like some chill energy was running through his whole body. As the master chatted with Xu Jing about his name and invited him to join the Golden Wind Dojo, the girl grabbed his hand tight, super hyped, and eyes lit up, clearly hoping he'd say yes. She couldn't even hide how much she wanted his answer right away. Out of nowhere, one of the windows blew out, glass flying all over the place. A creepy shadow with glowing red eyes stormed in, while everyone started screaming like crazy. The monster, looking like a massive bug, suddenly jumped at one of the students and went full savage, biting down hard while blood splattered everywhere and the dude's screams just shattered the quiet in the hall. Nobody moved. The whole place just stopped when Shu showed up. It was like time paused. Jing couldn't help but wonder what this thing really was, just staring at it. Meanwhile, the master totally lost it, yelling for everyone to get out and not stick around if they wanted to make it out alive. The girl, calling herself Manager Zhang, stepped up and started organizing everyone, doing her best to keep things under control just like the master told her to. The monster didn't wait around. It locked eyes on her and lunged fast, forcing her to scramble back and throw up her guard, barely keeping it together with danger closing in. When things got intense, Xu Jing jumped in quick and yanked the girl out of danger, barely dodging the monster's hit. Both of them hit the ground, and Xu Jing ended up on top, making sure she was safe. The girl was super embarrassed. Her cheeks went red, and deep down she kinda wished they could stay like that forever. Right then, a system pop-up showed up, letting Xu Jing know he just scored 20 more charm points. Xu Jing got to his feet and stared down the monster, remembering what Beiyu Guang mentioned about using that inner power-pulling energy from every part of himself and sending it out. He figured this was the best time to see if his new move actually worked. His hands started lighting up with this bright gold energy, getting ready to throw down. The monster charged at him again, slicing straight through the air like it had zero chill. Xu Jing didn't hold back. He just swung straight at it, and the hit set off a massive blast that echoed through the whole hall. When the dust settled, the monster was still there, barely scratched. Xu Jing got annoyed, thinking how cockroaches never go down easy no matter what you throw at them. He figured out real quick that just hitting harder wasn't going to cut it. He realized fast that the only way through this creature's defense was to put everything he had into one spot. He didn't waste a second. He locked in and used his inch force skill, aiming a super focused hit right at the monster's armor. A sudden blast of energy shot out, ripping right through the monster and blasting everything behind it. Stuff got wrecked in seconds. The monster dropped to the ground, totally done for. Xu Jing brushed off his clothes like it was nothing, thinking this thing was way weaker than it looked. The girl couldn't take her eyes off him. She was totally impressed, thinking he was awesome. At the same time, the master was just stuck, not even processing how this kid managed to control all that chi and drop such a massive amount without passing out. Out of nowhere, the monster got back up and let out this insane hiss like it just wasn't done yet. Xu Jing stood his ground, totally locked in, letting the monster know it didn't matter how hard it tried. Things were still going to end the same way. He was getting ready to finish things, but out of nowhere he started coughing up blood. Xu Jing just froze, totally lost on what was going on with him. Xu Jing spotted the monster charging straight at him, way faster than he expected. That's when it hit him. He wasn't as strong as he thought. Out of nowhere, the monster got smashed and ripped apart in an instant, bloody pieces everywhere. Xu Jing couldn't believe the monster got wiped out in just one hit. He just stood there trying to process what just happened, still frozen from how unreal it all felt. When the smoke faded, there was this woman with silver hair, rocking some high-tech combat gear, standing on top of the monster's wreckage. Xu Jing stared at her, trying to figure out what was going on. She introduced herself as Voidblade, leader of Squad 838 from the White Raven Squad, and told everyone who wasn't part of the fight to clear out ASAP. Xu Jing kept his eyes on her, curious about this squad he'd just heard about. He couldn't get over how easily she took out that cockroach guy with one hit. Now he was wondering if everyone in this group was built like that, crazy strong. Voidblade kept his eyes on him, honestly surprised that a kid around 17 or 18 could do that much damage to the monster without any weapons. Out of nowhere, her cheeks went red as she realized just how good-looking he was. She started plotting in her head, already set on finding some excuse to get him on her team. She walked up to him and slipped him a card, telling him to show up on Sunday at 5 p.m. at the address on it. She promised that if he came, he'd finally get all the answers he'd been waiting for. Xu Jing stared at the card in his hand, not saying anything. The words on it pointed him to the Qingqian Library, 7th floor. Manager Zhang was clearly stressing, circling around Xu Jing to make sure he was okay, throwing out offers to drive him to the hospital or just get him home to rest up. But Xu Jing kept it cool, letting everyone know he was totally fine and didn't need any help. He nodded at her, kind of grateful, then walked out. Manager Zhang watched him go, clearly impressed, and told him to come back the next day. The old master just stared after him, realizing their little dojo probably wasn't ready for someone at this level. She kept her eyes on him as he headed off, and the master just stared, clearly blown away by how much power the kid had shown the first time he tapped into chi. On his way back, notifications popped up in front of him, letting him know he'd just gained a ton of experience in fitness and health. His charm stat also shot up, and he unlocked this new skill called Inch Force. Xu Jing broke it down, saying this move works by stacking up chi energy in one spot, then firing it off super fast in a short burst. That's how it punches through even the toughest defenses. Xu Jing couldn't stop thinking about how awesome that feeling was, so as he walked he started charging up energy in his fist, hoping to get that rush again. He remembered what his master said about how messing with ki like this could straight up get him killed, so he figured it was smarter to chill for the night and hold off on checking the address until tomorrow. He moved through the dark alleys, his mind stuck on the White Raven Squad and that cockroach man. It felt like there were way more secrets out there than he realized. He figured he'd check out the address on the card when the weekend hit. He got to his apartment and, before going in, pulled out his phone. That's when he saw his cat messing around on his computer back home. He stood right in front of her, his face looking serious. He wanted to know what she was up to with his device. The cat tried to play it cool, acting all cute with a little meow, but you could tell it was nervous. Shujing just stared back with this silent, kind of creepy grin, like he knew exactly what was up. He figured he'd deal with everything later and just crashed for the night, not stressing over how weird she was acting for now. Shujing crashed hard on his bed and passed out. While all this was happening, the cat picked up on the smell of blood coming from him. She got worried right away, thinking maybe he'd gotten into it with someone. Her eyes lit up, straight up fired up, because to her, he was her person. In her head, anyone messing with him was messing with her, and she wasn't about to let that slide. Out of nowhere, she climbed right onto Shujing, looking him dead in the eyes, wanting the real story straight from him. Out of nowhere, the cat stood up on two legs and started talking just like a person. She said her name was Ning Feng Nya, and that she was actually the leader of the dragon sect. She told Shujing she'd make sure to get back at whoever messed with him. Shujing just stared at her, totally stunned by what he was seeing. He pulled himself together fast, shot her a sarcastic grin like he wasn't bothered at all, then just crashed back to sleep. Her yelling and trying to get his attention didn't faze him one bit. He acted like he couldn't even hear her. The next morning, Shujing got up feeling totally recharged and ready to go. He grabbed some breakfast and sat down, looking like he hadn't missed a beat. The cat sat beside him, splitting the food like they were teammates. Checking him out, the cat could tell he wasn't hurt. He was actually the one who took down that monster. He told her it was true, and she seemed pretty surprised. She'd never seen those monsters show up in the city before. Shujing reached out and patted her head, showing he appreciated that she cared about him, and he used her name, Nair, just to make it clear he noticed. The cat's cheeks turned red. She was clearly embarrassed. She didn't like the name he picked and insisted he use her proper title, the leader. He just went along with it, calling her Leader Nair. But you could tell he was being sarcastic about the whole thing. He snapped back to being serious, gripping his phone and wanting answers from her now that she could actually talk. He needed to know what she'd been up to with his phone. The cat stopped dead and just stared, totally caught off guard like she got busted doing something she shouldn't. She explained that the ring on her tail was actually a cattail ring, which was supposed to be some kind of god's relic. She was just trying to find out more about what it really was. Shujing walked over and reached for her tail, checking out the ring. The cat totally freaked out and let out a loud scream. Shujing thought back to what he'd read. God died almost 3 centuries ago. People say those glowing gold dots are actually pieces left behind from God. He suddenly got it. He'd only ever seen stuff like this in stories before, but now one of these things was right in front of him. No wonder his system could actually pull in that divine power. It all made sense now. He kept messing with her tail, totally lost in thought, while the cat just went off, clearly fed up and wanting him to quit it already. Shujing tried to hold back a laugh, glancing over to see if the cat was trying to figure out what to do with that weird ring. Nair, the cat, shut that down real quick. Her face went red. She was embarrassed and just wanted it gone, nothing else. While she was trying to get away, she admitted she had no idea how to take it off, and Shujing just gave her a look that said he was onto something. Nair started opening up about who she really was. Turns out she's actually the boss of the Dragon Sect, the biggest gang in Chingcheng City. They run all the entertainment spots and work with martial arts gyms to handle all sorts of shady deals. She broke it down. Her sect blew up way too fast, and that got some people jealous. Not long after, her own villa got hit with a sneak attack. That's when someone slipped the ring on her finger, and just like that, she got turned into a cat. By the time she got out, the whole sect was already taken over by someone else, and now she can't switch back to being human unless she takes off that ring. She stared ahead, eyes locked in and burning with payback. Anyone who turned their back on her was now on her list, and she wasn't about to let that slide once she got back to her old self. Shujing wanted to know what she was planning to do next. He figured if he couldn't find anything online, digging through the library probably wouldn't help either. She stood there, cool as ever, already locked in with a plan for what was happening. Shujing's supposed to start martial arts training and get stronger, which honestly caught the guy off guard. He wasn't really sure how getting ripped would fix whatever issue she had. She let him know that getting stronger would catch the eye of all kinds of groups who'd want him on their team. Some of these people might even have those rare god's relics, and with their help, he could finally start figuring out how to get rid of the ring. Shujing caught himself grinning, but deep down he was on edge. He could tell big groups were already starting to reach out to him. The cat said she'd show him the top dojo in town, so he looked at her, trying to figure out what she was talking about. She brought up Hidden Dragon Dojo, and Shujing knew that name right away. He thought back to the time he looked this place up, hoping to pick up some fighting skills, but the prices were way too high for him. He also remembered seeing a bunch of terrible reviews online, with people calling it a scam, and saying the masters never even showed up. He pulled up the screen for her, showing a bunch of comments from students. People were calling out how they felt ignored and said their money basically vanished. Nair brushed off those comments, calling out the people behind them as weak and unable to deal with tough times. He made it clear that real martial artists have mad respect for this dojo. When he tried to figure out how to get in, she just told him to storm the dojo. Apparently, that's how things go down in the Jianghu world. Xu Jing started stressing, thinking they might kick him out if he went in there and wrecked the place. She shot him a cold look, letting him know that, for her people, storming was basically just a job interview. She broke down how things worked for the trainees. The guys who just hand over cash start at the bottom. Next up are the ones who actually have some skill. But the real top dogs are the ones who just show up and take over the dojo, proving that cash doesn't mean anything if you can't back it up. She made it clear that having the right attitude and never backing down matter most when it comes to martial arts. She knew the only real way to show her fighting spirit was to charge straight into the dojo. She told him to head out by himself the next day since she had stuff to handle, then dipped out the window. The next day, Xu Jing pulled up to the hidden Dragon Dojo. As soon as he got there, one of the students spotted him and greeted him with a chill smile. Xu Jing reached out for a handshake, ready to kick off the challenge. But the student he faced suddenly gripped his hand way harder than expected. That's when Xu Jing caught on. It wasn't just a handshake, it was some kind of test. He got serious about it, focusing hard as he pulled together real chi energy in his hand. He grabbed so hard that everyone started yelling, trying to get him to stop. The pain had everyone freaking out and nobody could handle it. One of the guys started laughing, probably hoping to chill things out, and joked that this kid is always looking for a fight but never wins. Everyone else jumped in, roasting their classmate for taking another L. Out of nowhere, people started talking louder, letting everyone know the old master and his main students just showed up. A squad rolled in, all eyes on this older guy in a wheelchair with a black cat just chilling on his lap. Right behind him, the toughest fighters from the dojo pulled up, and everyone started wondering why so many heavy hitters showed up at once. The students couldn't help but think maybe something was up with the dojo. Xu Jing spotted the black cat chilling on the old man's lap and couldn't help but stare. What was Nair even doing here? Before he could figure it out, the old man told everyone to quiet down. He stared straight at the guy standing in front of him, checking if this was the dude who showed up ready to mess up the dojo. Meanwhile, the cat just watched, looking way too confident for the situation. Xu Jing looked around and started sizing things up. The vibe in the place wasn't bad at all, so he felt pretty alright about it. Old Master Mingbo Shang just gave this look, almost like he knew something everyone else didn't. He pointed out how nobody really had the guts to show up and try anything at his place for ages. Then he looked at the guy, all serious, basically asking if he really thought he had what it takes to pull it off. Xu Jing stared at his system panel, kind of thrown off. His combat skills were way lower than his physical stats, and now he wasn't sure how to even respond when someone asked if he was qualified. The master didn't jump straight into any strength tests. Out of nowhere, he started firing off personal questions, wanting to know basics like name and age. Xu Jing just kept it short and told him he was 17. They kept grilling him about where he lived, what his parents did, and if he had any brothers or sisters. Xu Jing started to question what was going on, low-key surprised by these random questions. It honestly felt more like someone was checking him out for a dating app than testing him for a fight. Out of nowhere, the old guy just started cracking up, saying he needed to get the scoop on his future son-in-law. The cat totally lost it at that and started hacking like it couldn't believe what it just heard. Xu Jing and the cat just stared at each other, both looking totally lost about what was going on. Chu Xianying, a young girl, suddenly broke the awkward vibe. She called the old man her grandpa and made it clear that, no matter what, he had to fight first. Then she looked at Xu Jing and let him know she'd take it easy on him. Xu Jing gave her the go-ahead with a quick hand signal. One of the students noticed right away. This junior sister was totally locked in, moving like she was out to take him down for real. The cat sat there, clearly annoyed, thinking it was wild that everyone was still trying to one-up each other, even after the old guy had just brought up the whole marriage interview thing. The cat tried to get Xu Jing to focus up just as the girl came at him, totally locked in. The girl went for a fighting move, but Xu Jing was way too quick. He just slipped right past her attack like it was nothing. He moved quick, catching her arm and using her own speed to toss her right up into the air. Slammed into the ground so hard her head spun, and just like that, the fight was over. The older disciples couldn't help but hype him up for how sharp his moves were. Watching him play reminded them of themselves back when they were younger and just as locked in. The old master couldn't stop grinning, seriously hyped that the cat had brought him someone worth training. Meanwhile, the cat was pretty proud of herself, though deep down she had been low-key worried about the old guy. Notifications popped up for Xu Jing, letting him know he'd just scored a win. Since he took down someone way tougher, he got a big boost in combat experience, plus his charm and fitness stats leveled up. The old master made it official. Since Xu Jing took down Chu Xianying even though he'd never actually trained in martial arts before, he definitely earned his spot as a direct disciple. The old man started laughing again, hinting that maybe it was time for him to switch up how he called him. Xu Jing stood in the middle of the group as the other guys circled up, giving him nods and high fives. They made him feel like he was already part of the crew, calling him their 7th junior brother. The whole vibe was chill, everyone just messing around and having a good time. Chu Xianying sat down on the floor, kind of embarrassed, and let everyone know she was the 6th sister. She owned up to messing up by not taking the other side seriously enough, but promised she wouldn't make that mistake again. Shu Jing nodded, kind of grateful for her help, while she just grumbled to herself, annoyed that she wasn't the youngest anymore now that he'd shown up. Another woman stepped up and told him it was time to finish the admission stuff, calling him Young Master Shu. That title threw him off for a second. He definitely wasn't expecting to be called that. The master let him know that nobody should disrespect his direct disciples. From now on, he was officially part of the inner circle, so calling him Young Master totally made sense. Shu Jing got super embarrassed and wanted to switch up the title since it just sounded weird to him. She brought up the name Master Jing, and Shu Jing just went along with it, a bit on edge, but trying to play it cool, saying whatever works is good. Shu Jing was chilling in the break room, petting the cat. He thought back on the whole dojo thing, kinda surprised it wasn't as tough as she made it sound, since the girl went down after just one hit. But then the cat set him straight, letting him know the girl was actually way stronger than he was. Shu Jing's got the muscle, no doubt, but martial arts isn't just about being strong. It's all about where your head's at, making smart moves, and sometimes just catching a break. One choice can flip the whole fight. Shu Jing chilled with his cat, absent-mindedly petting it while thinking back to his last match. The cat seemed to get it, almost like it was breaking down the fight in its own way. Shu Jing realized he only won because his opponent didn't take him seriously. If that girl had been more careful and let him make the first move, things could have turned out way different. Shu Jing didn't try to hide it. He knew luck had his back this time. But just looking at him, you could tell he was locked in and already thinking about grinding twice as hard, knowing he had to make up for not having enough experience yet. He wondered where the cat had gone the night before. She let him know she'd been at the dojo all night trying to get some info out of Grandpa Lee. While laughing, the cat dropped a wild story. Apparently, this old guy used to compete with her grandpa for her grandma's attention and nearly won her over. Shu Jing was messing around with the cat, kind of roasting the old man's wild backstory, when an employee suddenly stepped in and cut them off. They handed him his new ID card, so now he could just walk into the dojo whenever he wanted. Honestly, it made him seem even cooler. The next day, Shu Jing got straight into some brutal training. He held the horse stance for hours, sweat just pouring off him. As he pushed through, system notifications kept popping up, letting him know his fitness, internal strength, and health stats were all leveling up fast. He kept going nonstop, really pushing himself as hard as he could. He kept pushing himself, determined not to let all the work from that night just slip away. After grinding for what felt like forever, he finally leveled up his internal force to level 3. Right after, he just dropped to the floor, totally wiped out and breathing hard. The old master just stared at him, totally impressed. In his eyes, this guy was hands down the toughest student he'd ever taken under his wing. He told him he'd get to learn the hidden dragon sex cultivation move soon. Then, a chart popped up showing how Shu Jing handled his balance. Shu Jing's eyes lit up, and he was instantly locked in, wanting to know how it worked right away. The master noticed how eager he was and couldn't help but think about how obsessed Shu Jing seemed with martial arts. Out of nowhere, the master reached over and held onto Shu Jing's hand, making it clear he wanted Shu Jing to chill and not move. He started channeling a ton of true ki into his body, trying to see what was really going on inside. Shu Jing suddenly got hit with a rush of energy surging through him, way too strong for him to fight back. The master looked at him, clearly surprised, and wanted to know what kind of sport he was into. Shu Jing got a little anxious and tried to pull his hand back, saying he just runs and does some basic workouts, nothing special. His master told him straight up that his body was all good, no problems at all. He saw his own body like it was this insane masterpiece, almost like some god with OCD went all in, making sure every muscle, bone, and even his organs were lined up perfectly. The master could tell he was up against someone who was insanely talented at martial arts. Meanwhile, Shu Jing understood that all this skill came from the system powering him up when he used that combat move. Shu Jing really wanted to get back into learning the cultivation method, but the master just shut him down, not budging at all. He told him straight up that going all out with non-stop training every night had messed up his body on the inside. Trying to level up now would be like asking for trouble, basically a one-way ticket to getting wrecked. Shu Jing froze for a second, not sure what to do next. He needed some answers, fast. His master told him to head to the break room and hang tight. Someone was going to show up soon with that sleeping dragon ointment to patch him up. Shu Jing walked up to the room and stepped inside. Chu Shanying walked in, looking kinda weak but still showing up in just some light clothes. She was holding a medicine bottle, making it clear she was there to help him out with his injuries. Shu Jing's face went pale. His mind started racing, thinking maybe she showed up to get back at him after losing last time. She caught him off guard when she flashed a confident smile and told him to lose his shirt. Shu Jing pulled off his shirt, showing off his ripped build. The girl noticed right away, her cheeks turning red, and she told him to lie down. Shu Jing hit the bed, super tense, when a pop-up showed up saying he just scored a bunch of goodwill and got a charm boost. She told him to stay still. While she was putting ointment on his back and leaning over him, Shu Jing started sweating, his mind racing with worry about what she was up to. His sick sister started rubbing ointment on Shu Jing's chest, not holding back at all. She told him to stop staring at her like that, then let it slip that she's super competitive. As she pressed down on his muscles, Shujing couldn't help but notice how strong her grip was. At the same time, his face started turning red, a little embarrassed by how intense things got. He kept quiet, feeling awkward, but told himself it was cool as long as she was chill with it. Even though he was embarrassed, he just let it slide. She knew she only lost because she slipped up, but instead of letting it slide, she saw a chance to mess with him a bit. While helping him out, she started playfully messing with him just to get a little payback. While Shujing was chilling, notifications popped up letting him know he was racking up serious goodwill, and his charm score was going up fast. The girl noticed and started acting cute, wondering if he was mad at her. He kept his eyes shut and just accepted what was going on. He wasn't mad at all. The pain was nothing he couldn't handle. He signaled her to keep going and not stress about him. She wrapped up, patching up the top, then totally caught him off guard by asking him to drop his pants so she could work on the lower part. He freaked out and jumped back, not ready for that at all. He tried to dodge it, saying he'd handle the lower part on his own, no need to get her involved. But she wasn't having it. She stepped in, closing the gap, and basically cornered him. Out of nowhere, she started laughing, covering her mouth like she couldn't hold it in. Turns out, she was just messing with him to see if he'd actually get scared. She told him to take care and called him 7th junior brother as she said goodbye. She got up and walked out, leaving the ointment behind for him. Right after she dipped, a system pop-up showed up saying Shujing finished a round of dormant dragon stance training and leveled up his fitness and stance stats. Shujing stepped onto the street and let out a breath, glad he got out of there in one piece. He had to admit that woman was intense. She nearly wrecked him. Right then, the system let him know his combat and internal force levels just went up. He was pretty happy with how fast things were moving. With nothing else on his plate, he made his way to the library for the appointment listed on the card. He pulled out the card that said White Raven Squad on it. The name sounded kind of childish to him, like something out of a game, but he knew these guys were actually the real deal, the special police force running things in Chingcheng City. He stopped outside this massive library right in the middle of the city, trying to figure out why anyone would pick a spot like this for a meetup. He took the stairs up to the 7th floor of Chingcheng Library and noticed right away that nobody else was around. It felt way too quiet, and he started to wonder if someone had set him up. Just then, he heard someone call his name. He turned around and saw this blonde girl who looked pretty put together. She said her name was Wu Yu Qing and even broke down what it meant, like she'd done this intro a bunch of times before. Shujing didn't waste any time and got straight to the point. He wanted to know where Voidblade was and why they had to meet in this spot. She told him that Voidblade works for her as a private informant, and that sending someone her way basically signs him up for the special police squad. At first, she wasn't sure about him, but after seeing him in action, she decided to give him a shot. She hopped up onto the table looking super chill and confident. With a quick grin, she basically invited him to come hang out like she already knew he'd say yes. Shujing didn't even hesitate. He turned down the offer right away. Then, he wanted to know what could possibly make him say yes to something like that. She smiled at him, almost like she knew something he didn't, and hinted that he might want to find out more about God's relics. Shujing's eyes shot open the second he heard it, and you could tell he was tense. She caught the look on his face and realized she'd guessed it right. Now she was curious, trying to figure out how he even knew about something like God's relics. Shujing just kept quiet and didn't say anything, but deep down, he couldn't help worrying about who this woman really was and how much she actually knew about him. She pulled out this stylish water bottle, filled up a cup, and basically admitted she messed up by not giving out the info earlier. She slid the cup over to him, and Shujing grabbed it without hesitating, taking a sip right away. He stared at her, totally caught off guard, and started questioning if this was actually just water. In his head, he couldn't figure out what she was up to. She stayed quiet, grabbed the same water bottle and filled up his cup again, then told him to give it another shot. Shujing eyed the cup, then glanced at her, clearly not sure what was up. He honestly didn't get why she was so set on this, especially since it was just regular water. The moment he took a sip, his eyes went wide. He couldn't believe it. Out of nowhere, the water turned sweet, way different from before. Wu Yu King started telling the story, laying out how things went down almost 3 centuries back. He explained that 287 years ago, Godwell actually, the idol died. When he died, tons of tiny lights burst out from his body, spreading everywhere and lighting up the whole world. The scene was honestly unreal. Back when it all started, people named those spots God's blood. They believed it dropped down and got stuck in things, creatures, and maybe even inside how people think. She told him that when this blood lands somewhere, the object basically turns into what people call a God's relic. She held up this glowing kettle in her hands, Sweetwater Kettle, serial number 567, showing him what she meant. Shujing eyed the kettle, not totally trusting it yet. He wanted to check it out himself, just to make sure she hadn't already dumped sugar in there. She just grinned, super chill, and let him go ahead. The second his hands landed on the glowing kettle, pop-ups started flashing in front of him. They said he'd found some kind of divine material and started soaking up divinity, boosting his balance stats until he finally hit the level he needed to unlock his skill. He was honestly blown away when he figured out he could just touch the relics and soak up divinity, so he didn't even have to use his skill. That left him pretty hyped, and he got curious about the kettle, wanting to know if it just made water taste sweet without any sugar or if it could actually boil water out of nowhere. She let out a soft laugh and covered her mouth, saying he was almost right but not quite there. She pointed out how clueless he was about real life and called him cute for it. Shujin kept pouring water, but the level didn't go down at all. He realized pretty quick that the water must be endless, and the girl nodded, impressed by how fast he figured it out. She made it clear she was about to use the kettle's special move, kind of hinting that since he was one of the smartest guys at Chingchong High, he should already get why this was such a big deal. Shujin couldn't believe what he was seeing. This thing just straight up ignored all the science rules he knew, like it was some kind of endless energy hack. It looked like it could flip everything people thought about how the universe works. He started wondering if that never-ending electricity in the inner circle was actually connected to whatever was going on here. Wu Yuking cut him off with a snap, telling him to chill out and not get lost in his own head. She basically said that just having God's relics around proves they're on a whole different level, stuff people can't copy, no matter what. Shujin got serious and wanted to know why she was laying all this out for him and sharing so much. She handed him a gold business card from Wu Company, the place that handles God's relics and all that weird stuff. Right away his mind flashed back to 3 days ago, when he went up against Cockroach Man. That thing looked human, but it was straight up terrifying, and he didn't even flinch the whole time. She let him know that spiritually he was way ahead of most people, like he'd leveled up past them without even realizing it. She flashed a confident grin and asked if he wanted to join their squad for dealing with relics, making it all official. Shujing didn't waste a second. He grabbed her hand like he was super hyped, acting all eager and way too sincere, basically begging her to let him join her team right then and there. He yelled out, locking in his promise to follow her lead, but inside he was hyped. He just realized that landing a job at a relic containment company is the dream gig he has to get no matter what, just so he can rack up those points.
Lately, I've had a strong addiction to watching manhwa and manga recap videos. Every single day, I find myself binging one after another, losing hours and days doing absolutely nothing productive. And honestly, it's getting out of hand. So, maybe we can make these viral videos too. I mean, look at the views, the growth, the community these creators are building. It looks simple, right? But that's a trap. You go down this endless rabbit hole, spending money, losing sleep, hiring editors and writers from Fiverr and Upwork, and still feel like you've been robbed. Because don't forget how emotional the YouTube algorithm can be with making videos go viral. It's unpredictable, especially when the market's saturated, competition's relentless, and somehow other creators are dropping 10-hour videos daily while you're stuck trying to finish one. That's when I realized something had to change. So, I built the solution, the Webtoon Narrative Suite, a complete one-click system that handles everything from cropping, script narration, text-to-speech, image processing, and full video generation in one smooth process. Save money, reduce hours of work, and have a tool that only gives you straight results. Click on the link down below and experience it for yourself. And if you want even more tools to supercharge your YouTube recap journey, visit my Ko-Fi and Patreon pages where I drop weekly new tools designed to keep you ahead as AI continues to steal our jobs. So tap in now before you get left behind.